Hey guys, tonight we tiptoe down sticky alleys and oil-slick cobblestones, past clouds of steam and clattering pans, into the glowing underworld of medieval junk food. You're standing beneath a crooked lantern, its orange light glinting off a tray of honey-glazed fritters. Somewhere nearby, a merchant yells about roasted chestnuts, and the air smells like meat, spice, and something mysteriously sweet. And honestly, who needs modern drive-thrus when you've got boiling cauldrons, suspicious pies, and no health inspectors in sight? Now, dim the lights. Maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. So you follow the scent of frying oil into the night. The market doesn't sleep, not really. Even under the shroud of night, something sizzles. A faint hiss cuts through the cool air, oil, reacting to something just dropped into it. You duck beneath a crooked wooden sign, nearly colliding with a baker's apprentice who rushes past you with a tray of steaming dough twists. The cobblestones beneath your boots are warm in patches, where hearts below shops have been stoked since dusk. Lanterns swing lazily in the breeze, tethered to wooden beams overhead. They light the cramped alleyway like golden stars caught in a net, flickering against grease-streaked windows and baskets of charbread. Your stomach grumbles as if cued. The air is heavy with the aroma of lard and cinnamon, pork and cloves, yeast and smoke. It's intoxicating and maybe just a bit nauseating. You pass a vendor crouched behind a cart, so overloaded with fried goods, it looks like it might collapse. He gestures silently, no words needed. His fingers are dusted in flour, his apron translucent with oil. You lean in closer, and the heat of the pan nearly scalds your cheek. Inside, dough balls the size of apples roll and pop in boiling fat, browning like tiny suns. A hiss, a splatter. You flinch. He laughs, hands you one wrapped in coarse linen. You bite in. Crispy shell, spiced fig filling, just enough sweetness to override the mystery meat aftertaste from earlier. No one talks much here. Not really. It's all transactional. Coins flicked, heads nodded, mouths chewing. This isn't the banquet hall, and you're not at some royal feast. This is the other side of food. Chaotic, sticky, fast, sometimes questionable, but always comforting. That fryer's probably been reused for weeks without cleaning. That dough likely came from yesterday's leftovers. But you don't care. You're warm, full of sugar and salt, and the night is still young. Across the alley, a girl with soot-smudged cheeks peddles trays of fruit skewers soaked in honey. They glisten under the light like edible jewels. Medieval candy, she calls it. Her voice is rough with smoke and age beyond her years. You pass her a copper coin, and she slips a plum slice onto your tongue before you can object. Sticky, overripe, wonderful. You smile despite yourself. A bell chimes somewhere deeper in the square, a curfew warning, maybe, or a signal for a fresh batch of fritters. In the corner of your eye, a torch flares up. You turn, and there's a new stall being dragged into position. The night market expands like a living thing, each vendor a pulsing, glowing cell in its restless body. This isn't the sanitized food court of modern times. There are no sneeze guards, no health ratings. But there's color, there's life, there's story. You notice a man hunched over a wooden box carved with runes. He's not shouting like the others, just quietly turning over little brown lumps. Curiosity pulls you forward. He looks up, his eyes one blue, one clouded. Without asking, he places a lump in your palm. Hard, granular. You sniff. Sugar, but dark and smoky, almost burnt. Boiled from cane and ash, he croaks. Stolen from the monks in Acre. Whether that's true or not doesn't really matter. You pop it into your mouth and instantly regret it. Your jaw strains, the sugar is sharp and crusted, and you may have just chipped a tooth. He grins like it's the funniest thing in the world. Historians today still argue whether street food like this was common for peasants or more of a special indulgence. Some believe treats like these were reserved for feast days or stolen scraps from noble kitchens. Others suggest entire under-economies of traveling food vendors existed outside the purview of formal markets. The truth is probably somewhere between. You, for now, are content to let the mystery melt on your tongue. A group of children darts past you, their fingers coated in what looks like molasses. One holds a waxcloth bundle. He opens it to reveal sugar-dusted hazelnuts, stolen maybe, or saved up for all week. You catch their laughter as they vanish around a corner, leaving only the smell of roasted nuts behind them. You realize something then. You haven't seen a single menu. No prices posted. No names for anything. This is a market run by instinct, smell, and memory. You pay what you have, take what you're given, and trust your gut. The next stall beckons not with sound or motion, but with scent, a deep, savory perfume that coats the inside of your nostrils. You follow it, as if enchanted, your steps slower now, your full stomach still curious. Ahead, an elderly woman stands behind an iron cauldron, its rims slick with years of use, its contents bubbling like a miniature volcano. She's flipping something with a pair of iron tongs, discs of dough, speckled with herbs, and sizzling at the edges. You watch as she deftly flips one, revealing a golden underside that crackles slightly as it meets the air. She offers you a knowing look, then gestures with her chin toward a plank of wood beside the fire. You approach and realize it's a makeshift counter, layered with grease-stained linen and small bowls of spice. Mustard seed, ground coriander, crushed bay leaf. "Fritter?" she asks, as if daring you to say no. You nod, of course, and she presses one into your hand. It burns slightly through the cloth, and you juggle it between your palms as she chuckles. The first bite crunches, then gives way to soft, chewy dough with a faint tang. Something green is inside. Onion? Chive? Maybe even stinging nettle. Historians today debate whether these fried treats were snacks or full meals. Recipes varied widely, often based on what could be foraged, bartered, or begged. Some were filled with mashed peas or fish paste, others with minced meat spiced heavily to cover the smell. Whatever this is, it's working. You chew, and something salty melts on your tongue. Butter, maybe lard. You're not sure you want to know. There's no cutlery here. Everything's eaten with fingers, or, if you're noble, with a personal dagger. You wipe your hands on your tunic, not caring about the stains. You pass the threshold now, into the dream logic of the medieval night. Cleanliness feels centuries away. A boy with a singed eyebrow rushes past, holding a wooden plate stacked with round, flat discs, some kind of medieval pancake. You follow him, weaving through the crowd until you reach a new cart. This one's busier. It's run by a pair of brothers, both stout, both sweating through their shirts. One pours a thin batter from a horn flask onto a hot stone slab, while the other scatters herbs and flower petals on top. The result is delicate, almost crepe-like, with the crispness of a potato chip but the fragrance of a garden. Rose cakes, one explains, noticing your look of confusion. For weddings, or mischief. You raise a brow. He grins and leans closer, sometimes with poppy seed. Makes you dream sideways. He winks and flips a cake into your hand. You nibble cautiously. The sweetness is faint, overshadowed by the bitterness of the petals, but it's strangely pleasant. Your mind does feel a little fuzzy, but maybe that's just the warm night in your overloaded belly. A historian might note that rosewater and orange blossom were common flavorings in the Middle Ages, imported through trade routes winding from Moorish Spain and the Ottoman world. Sugar was still rare, expensive, and often used sparingly, more medicine than treat. That's why vendors like this had to get creative. They used petals, spices, even bits of dried cheese. Whatever smelled sweet or exotic, they tried it. Sometimes it worked. Sometimes it definitely didn't. You overhear a man complaining about almond cheese from a rival cart. Tasted like dust and church incense, he mutters. You make a mental note to avoid it, though part of you is now morbidly curious. The night continues to unfold in waves. Just as you think you've tasted it all, a new smell catches you, a faint burnt caramel, with a strange metallic aftertaste. It leads you to a girl fanning a pile of metal cones over a brazier. Inside, crushed nuts and brown sugar melt into brittle shards. She chips off a piece and hands it to you with a smile, missing several teeth. "Sugar glass," she says. "Mind your molars." You suck on it cautiously. It melts slowly, sharp on the tongue, like medieval hard candy. As you chew, she tells you that this was once a monk's recipe, used to keep choir boys quiet during long services. Whether she's telling the truth or not doesn't matter. It's a good story, and in this market, good stories are worth as much as gold. In fact, half the vendors seem more like performers than cooks. One juggles pears while reciting a limerick. Another tosses dough into the air, spinning it like a plate before slapping it into a pan. A third simply growls like a bear and hands out fried turnips wrapped in parchment. You pass a stall where a woman is grinding seeds with a mortar and pestle. The paste smells oddly familiar. Peppery, nutty, vaguely cheesy. Mustard, she tells you, dipping a wooden spoon and holding it out. You taste it. Your nose tingles, your eyes water. It's strong. For salted meats, she explains, and weak constitutions. You cough, but not appreciatively. You hadn't expected a condiment to slap you awake. Modern scholars debate whether medieval food was truly bland. There's a tendency to romanticize spices in royal courts, but common folk? You realize each bite here has intention. To preserve, to surprise, to distract from what might otherwise be inedible. Someone taps your shoulder. It's a child no older than 7, offering you a skewer of something pale and roasted. Sweetbread, he says. You hesitate. That could mean almost anything in medieval terms: thymus gland, pancreas, or just literal sweetbread. You smile politely, pass on it, and he shrugs, wandering off to find a less squeamish customer. Your fingers are stained with spice now. Orange from saffron, red from paprika, brown from whatever was in that last meatball. You lick them clean and instantly regret it. Not because it tastes bad, but because you realize how filthy everything probably is. Still, you do it again. Nearby, a group of drunk apprentices is singing a bawdy ballad, waving greasy turkey legs like scepters. One offers you a bite, then laughs when you decline. More for me, he shouts, taking a massive chomp and spilling broth down his shirt. His friends erupt in laughter. You laugh too. It's contagious. And for a moment, you forget where or when you are. This could be any street, any city, any time. Hunger, laughter, late-night snacks, they're timeless. A dog barks. A lute strums. Somewhere a pot boils over. You move on. The crowd thins slightly as you reach a darker patch of the market, where the lanterns hang lower and flicker against rough stone walls. Here, the rhythm slows. You spot a small booth built into the corner of 2 leaning buildings, barely more than a ledge with a canopy of stitched burlap above it. The vendor is old, truly old, with a face like a dried fig and fingers like twigs. He nods slowly when you approach, then lifts the lid of a wooden chest. Inside, arranged in neat rows, are lumps of something that glisten faintly in the firelight. You pick one up. It's sticky, almost waxy. He grunts. Sugar lump. Imported. Yemen. His voice creaks like a floorboard. You raise it to your nose. The smell is warm and strange, smoky and floral at once. It sticks to your fingers immediately. You pop it into your mouth and feel it begin to dissolve like a cough drop made of perfume and ash. It's not what you expect, but it's not unpleasant. Used to be sacred, the old man adds. Now, street candy. He shrugs. Just another sign of how times change, even in a place where time feels stuck like molasses in a spoon. Historians debate when sugar shifted from medicine to indulgence. In the early medieval period, it was exotic and rare, passed hand to hand like spice. But by the 14th century, sugar was starting to sweeten things on purpose. Not common, still expensive, but showing up more and more, especially in port cities, especially on the tongues of children whose parents shouldn't have afforded it. You thank him with a coin. He slips it into a pouch, and as you turn to go, he whispers, "Try the Sugar Street." 2 alleys down. You pause. Sugar Street? Sounds like a fairy tale, or a warning. You follow his advice. Curiosity pried open now like the lid of a jam pot. The alley he mentioned is narrower, darker. The stalls are fewer here, but more elaborate, draped in fabric, lit with candles instead of lanterns. One in particular glows a soft gold, and behind it stands a young woman in crimson robes. Her hair is braided with ribbons. Her smile is sharp. On the table before her are pyramids of sweets, carefully shaped into flowers, shells, even tiny castles. They shimmer with sugar and powdered spice. She doesn't speak. Instead, she offers a plate. You choose the smallest thing on it, a wafer shaped like a swan. It cracks gently between your teeth and melts on your tongue with notes of almond, orange blossom, and maybe saffron? You're not even sure. The texture is so light it might vanish if you breathe too hard. Used to be for weddings, she finally says. We're noblemen. We're saints. But now, just us. You glance around. No one else is eating. No one is even watching. This feels secretive. Sacred. You try another. Something chewy and sticky, rolled in poppy seeds and dipped in honey. It's wonderful. Unapologetically rich. And gone in 2 bites. This might be the most refined thing you've eaten all night. It feels more like art than food. The kind of delicacy you'd expect on a silver platter. Not a wood plank under a burlap tent. But here it is, shared in whispers. There's an odd democracy to this junk food. Stolen, shared, smuggled, remade. Nothing is just one class's anymore. Everything is borrowed. You thank her, and she nods once. No smile this time, just a glint of candlelight in her eyes. The further you wander, the more theatrical it gets. One vendor draws a crowd by juggling candied apples, then bites into one mid-spin, revealing it's filled with onion. The crowd gasps, laughs, groans. Another performs sleight of hand with pepper rolls, pulling them from his sleeves and hat like a greasy magician. Food here isn't just about flavor. It's performance, humor, mischief, a way to gather, a way to distract. You take a seat on a barrel near a stall selling roasted dates stuffed with soft cheese. The vendor lets you try 1, then 3. The sweetness of the date, the saltiness of the cheese. It's almost too good. You ask what kind of cheese it is, and he simply replies, the kind that doesn't ask questions. You learn that some of these vendors are technically breaking the law, not for poisoning anyone, just for selling outside the official market hours. Food laws in some towns ban night sales, fearing crime, fire, or moral decay. But people found ways around it. They always do. A side alley, a bribe to the watch, a sign turned backward. There's even talk of a black market pastry ring. Young apprentices smuggling fritters and candied ginger into noble homes after dark. True? Probably not. Entertaining? Absolutely. One nearby vendor, the only one selling from a wheelbarrow, offers something wrapped in cabbage leaves. You hesitate, but he insists. Warm. Travel safe. Won't kill you. Not the most reassuring pitch. You try a bite anyway. It's soft and savory. Lentils, nuts, a bit of vinegar. Actually good. The leaf holds everything together like a medieval burrito. You nod in surprise. He grins, says, old Roman recipe. Still works. And just like that, a dish older than most cathedrals is being eaten on the same street where you tried sugar glass and mystery meat. Time folds in strange ways here. You feel your belly growing tight now. The back of your throat is sticky with syrup and spice. Still, the temptation never really ends. You pass a boy with a tray of honeycomb and consider it. Just one more bite. But your steps are slower now. Heavier. The thrill of new flavors is giving way to a deep, quiet satisfaction. A post-snack piece. And yet, even as you near the edge of the market, you can't help but notice the next stall where something new is bubbling, glistening, frying. You don't need it. You know that. But then again, when has that ever stopped anyone? You can tell something's different before you even see it. The scent alone is heavier, meatier, thick with rendered fat and wood smoke, with a sharp bite of cumin and black pepper curling in from somewhere deep ahead. You round the corner and find a man hunched over a wide metal plate set atop glowing coals. His arms are bare, marked with burns. He works quickly, flipping skewers of meat and splashing them with a dark, sticky glaze from a small jug looped to his belt. The meat hisses and sears, curling at the edges, and the smoke that rises makes your eyes water. You get closer. It's not quite beef, not quite pork. You ask. He says whatever the butcher didn't need. Not particularly reassuring, but somehow honest. He slides a skewer into a scrap of bread and hands it to you without a word. You take a bite. It's chewy, sweet, tangy with vinegar and spice, and undeniably good. The bread sops up the juices like a sponge. It drips onto your hand. You don't care. Meat on a stick is an ancient tradition, but in the Middle Ages, it also served a very practical purpose. Quick cooking, easy portioning, and, most importantly, camouflaging old or suspect meat. Spice wasn't just for flavor, but survival. And if you can drown it in cloves, garlic, or cinnamon, it just might pass for fresh. Food historians today still debate whether this kind of spice-heavy street meat was a common indulgence or something saved for holy days. Tonight, at least, it feels like the kind of luxury meant to be eaten fast and forgotten just as quickly. The vendor dips another skewer in glaze, then sprinkles it with what looks like ground pepper. You squint. It's not pepper. It's ash. From burnt rosemary, maybe. It gives the meat a strange, smoky sweetness. Saves on salt, he grunts. And with that, your mouth is full again. You move along the line of stalls with your skewer still in hand, noticing the subtle shift in tone now. The food is getting bolder, richer, riskier. You pass one stand that's selling what appears to be fur pies, tiny pastries shaped like swans and doves, their wings molded from crust and their beaks painted with berry juice. You lean closer. A woman in a moss-green shawl explains, made with pigeon, sometimes crow, sometimes whatever flies into the chimney. You laugh nervously. She doesn't. You buy one anyway. The crust is flaky, surprisingly delicate. Inside, it's savory, soft, with bits of dried fruit and onion. You hope it was pigeon. You really do. The medieval pie is a curious thing. Sometimes sweet, sometimes savory, and often both at once. It's not always clear what you're biting into, and that's part of the charm, or the gamble. Pies were often used to disguise contents, especially at feasts. They could hide meat, fish, spices, even live birds. Yes, that happened. Yes, sometimes the birds escaped. No one's sure why they thought it was a good idea. You sit down beside a fire pit where a handful of children are roasting root vegetables on sticks. One of them offers you a char parsnip. You thank him, take a bite. It's sweet and earthy, with the faintest bitterness near the core. We dip it in old wine, the boy says proudly. Let's sit 3 days. You ask if that's to soften it. No, he shrugs. It just tastes better weird. Fair enough. There's something wholesome about this little circle of kids, dirty-faced, barefoot, elbowing each other for a turn at the flame. Not much has changed in 700 years. Kids still gather around fire, roast things on sticks, and argue over whose is better. A woman passes behind you, balancing a wooden tray full of small tarts. Their centers jiggle slightly, some kind of custard, maybe. You buy one out of curiosity. The crust crumbles at the touch, and the filling is thick and eggy, but brightened by a sharp hint of lemon or vinegar. Milk tart, she says, soured on purpose. That tracks. Milk didn't keep long in medieval kitchens, and curdling was sometimes a feature, not a flaw. Still, it's surprisingly smooth. Tangy. You finish it and find yourself licking your fingers again, uncaring of the grime that surely clings there. You stand, stretch, and hear your joints pop. This much food should be uncomfortable, but instead, it feels like armor. Like warmth. Like you're padded now against the chill of a late night. You wander again, this time following a different smell. Warm, yeasty, and faintly metallic. It brings you to a baker's oven, stone, squat, built into a wall like a cave. The baker is pulling out small, flat loaves dotted with fruit and herbs. Spice bread, he explains, for the monks, and for anyone with a few coins. You buy one. It's still steaming. The figs inside have caramelized slightly, and the crust crackles with just a touch of char. You chew slowly, watching the baker sweep fresh ash from the floor of the oven with a branch of dry thyme. Monks, it turns out, were some of the best bakers in Europe. Their strict schedules, access to ingredients, and deep knowledge of fermentation gave them an edge. But even their recipes filtered into the street, where they were knocked down a peg, modified, fried, or sweetened until they bore only a passing resemblance to the originals. And that's fine. That's food. It evolves. It wanders. You stroll onward, not in search of anything now, just coasting through the glow. And then you spot something entirely unexpected. A slab of stone, stacked with thin slices of fruit. Pear, apple, quince, each slice dried and slightly curled like leaves pressed in a book. You try one. The pear is leathery but sweet. The quince is tart. Dried last summer, the vendor explains. Stored in beeswax and ash. A preservation method? Absolutely. A snack? Somehow yes. It's not quite junk food, but it feels like it belongs here. Like something you'd nibble while watching a puppet show or waiting out a drizzle under a shop's overhang. Simple, honest, timeless. You pocket a slice and carry on, the meat stick long gone. The pigeon pie just a memory. Your stomach feels layered now, as if you've swallowed an entire city of flavors, textures, stories. But still, one more bite wouldn't hurt. It's a little quieter here, at the edge of the market. The lanterns sway less in the breeze, and there are fewer people crowding the stalls. But the smells persist, more delicate now, subtler. You pass a young man sitting cross-legged behind a shallow clay pan. He's flipping what looks like thin cakes, crepes of some kind, but you notice they're darker, spongier, almost glossy on the underside. He sees your interest and raises a spoon. Honey and vinegar batter, he says. Let it sit 3 days before cooking. Changes everything. You nod, and he slips one onto a piece of bark and hands it to you. It's warm and sticky, with a chewy bite that surprises you. The vinegar gives it a tartness that cuts the honey, and together they make something sharp, almost fermented. You ask where the recipe comes from, and he shrugs. Mine Anne, and hers before that. Might have started as a mistake. That seems to be a pattern here. Mistakes made edible. Accidents turn tradition. There's a kind of culinary rebellion in this corner of the market. You pass a woman selling milk curd squares dyed purple with beet juice, claiming they aid digestion. A boy pours warm cider over stale bread chunks to create an improvised pudding, which he eats with a sliver of cheese melted directly onto the crust. Another vendor offers rotten pear mash, which is exactly what it sounds like, overripe fruit mixed with cinnamon and goat's cream. It's intense, but not bad. Not bad at all. These are snacks born from desperation, from resourcefulness. In a world without refrigeration, you had to get creative. Use it or lose it. The woman with the beet curds mutters when she sees your raised brow. We don't throw things away here. We evolve them. A modern chef might call this nose-to-tail or whole food philosophy. A medieval cook just called it survival. And here, at the fringe of the market, you feel that urgency. There's no waste, no luxury, just cleverness, and maybe a little magic. Not far away, you hear the unmistakable crack of something hard striking stone. You turn and see a young girl smashing nuts with a rounded cobble. She's perched on an upturned barrel beside a small fire over which she roasts the split-open shells. She waves you over. Almonds, she says proudly, but we toast them with salt and pepper. You sit beside her and accept a small handful. The nuts are warm, spicy, and smoky, and the girl beams as you crunch down. Learned it from a knight, she whispers, as if sharing state secrets. Spiced nuts were often part of feast tables, sure, but they trickled down too. When available, they were portable, easy to preserve, and satisfying in small amounts. And yes, even knights munched on them between tournaments. The girl tosses another handful into her pan and grins like she owns the whole kingdom. Your attention drifts to a stall where 3 women are bent over a single flat griddle. They move in rhythm, scooping batter, flipping pancakes, sprinkling sugar. It's hypnotic. The pancakes are thin and blistered, and they pile them into stacks that teeter like coins about to fall. One woman spots you and waves you forward. You like them crispy or soft? She asks. You choose crispy. She nods approvingly. She serves you a small triangle of fried batter, dusted in crushed aniseed and fennel. It's sweet, but with a sudden licorice snap that surprises you. For digestion, she says, and for breath. No one wants to smell like goat stew all night. Fair. Food, you realize, is not just flavor, it's function. Every bite here has a second purpose. To warm, to soothe, to disguise, to preserve. Even the most indulgent snacks serve more than hunger. They keep you balanced. They keep you sharp. They keep you safe. Or at least they try. You linger by the griddle for a while, watching the three women work. You learn that two are sisters and the third is their cousin. They've been making these fennel cakes for years. And during holy days, they add mint and clove, and sometimes lavender if they can trade for it. You ask why they bother with such elaborate flavors. One shrugs, keeps people guessing, and they come back. A pause. Then she adds, and it hides the taste when the batter turns. You nod. That tracks. You thank them and wander again, guided now by a soft humming sound. It's not music exactly, but someone is definitely singing, quietly, just under their breath. You follow the sound until you find an old woman sitting beside a pile of charred clay bowls. She's stirring something thick and golden in a pot over glowing coals. It smells like boiled milk and spice and maybe something floral. She smiles when she sees you, then motions to sit. You lower yourself onto a low stool, and she ladles some of the golden goo into a tiny bowl and hands it over. You sip. It's hot, thick, sweet, and oddly sour all at once, like melted custard made from yogurt. Saffron milk mush, she says, was for sick people once. Now it's for us. You nod slowly, letting the warmth bloom down your throat. It coats your mouth. It makes you sleepy. Scholars still argue whether this kind of dish, somewhere between drink and dessert, was meant as medicine or comfort food. Likely both. It has that quality of something a grandmother insists will cure anything from a broken heart to a bruised shin. And tonight, it works its spell on you too. Your shoulders lower. Your hands unclench. You sit quietly beside her as she stirs. The pot gurgles softly. She doesn't speak again, and neither do you. And that's the strange magic of this place. It's noisy and chaotic, yes, but within it, small pockets of silence survive. Gentle, sacred, full-bellied moments that feel suspended from time. You finish the last of the mush and set the bowl gently on the stones beside you. Then, rising slowly, you press your palms together in thanks. She nods once, no smile, but eyes warm, and goes back to stirring. Her song hums you away into the night. Your feet move again, but slower. You're not chasing new tastes now. You're just walking, letting the world unfold at its own pace. The stalls begin to blur, and the lanterns shimmer like stars just a little too low in the sky. And still, something simmers in the distance. You feel it before you see it. A low vibration in the boards underfoot, a bass note of bubbling oil and clattering pans. You turn the corner, and there it is. A food stall so crowded it spills into the street, drawing clusters of people who balance wooden bowls and clay mugs like their garden treasure. The source? A massive iron pot suspended over fire, filled with a pale, creamy sludge that emits an irresistibly nutty aroma. You inch closer and catch the splash of something heavy landing inside. A hunk of cheese already melting. A woman in an apron too big for her frame stirs vigorously with a spoon the size of a canoe paddle. Curd mash. She yells over the din: flour, cheese, milk, and garlic. Breakfast for kings. Or criminals. She gives you a wink and motions toward the end of the line. You shuffle in with the rest. Curd dishes like this were common in medieval diets. Simple, filling, and quick to prepare in bulk. They often appeared at monasteries and workhouses, but could also be dressed up for noble feasts with spices or herbs. This one, judging by the colorful flecks floating in it, parsley, maybe saffron, is doing its best to walk the line. Your turn comes. She slaps a ladleful into a shallow trencher, bread hardened into a bowl, and hands it off. You cradle it in your hands. The bottom is hot, the top still steaming. You taste. First comes the cheese, pungent and earthy, then the faint sharpness of garlic, then the soft chew of bread as it soaks up the mixture like a sponge. It's deeply satisfying, like the culinary equivalent of being wrapped in a heavy wool blanket on a cold day. You walk and eat, the crowd pressing and folding around you. A passing man mutters something about a spice shortage in the next town. A woman scolds her son for eating too fast. A toothless old man hums a drinking song. The curd mash disappears quickly, and you feel both comforted and slightly sluggish. But no matter, the energy here carries you forward. You pass a barrel half filled with what looks like golden cubes. A woman is selling them from skewers, her fingers coated in syrup. She offers you one. You bite down and get an unexpected crunch, followed by a slow, buttery sweetness. Fried cheese, she says proudly, rolled in honey and fried again. You raise your eyebrows. Yes, she confirms, cheese can be dessert. It can, and it is. The outside is crisp. The inside melts just slightly, still holding its shape. It leaves a residue on your lips and fingertips. But you don't mind. Everyone here is sticky. Everyone is glazed in some way. Syrup, oil, sweat, or laughter. Across the path, a pair of boys dart between legs, shouting butterballs. Try the butterballs. One grabs your wrist and drops a nugget into your palm. It's warm and soft, barely holding together. You hesitate. He grins. No meat, just butter and flour. Fry it twice and add sugar. Good for your heart. That last part might be a lie, but you pop it into your mouth anyway. It melts. Instantly. Like fat-soaked air. You laugh. Actually laugh. And the boy sprints off into the crowd, already calling to the next mark. There's a lightness to the absurdity of it all. Food that exists only for joy. Nothing nutritious. Nothing practical. Just flavor, sensation, warmth. There's an ongoing debate among food historians about medieval junk food culture. Some argue that the term doesn't apply, that survival was too pressing for indulgence. Others believe that wherever humans gathered, indulgence followed. That even the poor, even the desperate, found ways to sneak sweetness into their lives. Looking around this market, watching the way people smile through bites of fried dough or argue over the crunchiest wafer, it's hard to imagine a Middle Ages without snacks. You reach a vendor whose table is covered entirely in sticks, hundreds of them, each impaling something different. Candied nuts, dried meat curls, roasted figs, hardened sugar plums. She works silently, arranging them in spirals. You pick one at random, a candied root of some kind. She gives a faint nod, then returns to her design. It's almost meditative, and the root, probably parsnip, is so sweet and earthy it feels almost grown-up. Less of a treat, more of a challenge. Near her stall, an older man stands beside a basket of round, breaded spheres. He gestures with his chin. Dumplings, he says, but not like the fancy kind. These are cheap dumplings. Onion, turnip, old broth. Fried flat. He flips one over with a stick to show the brown side, then hands it to you. You bite. It's humble and oddly comforting, like a memory you didn't know you had. Something simple, something warm. He tells you that in times of famine, these dumplings were made without any vegetables at all, just breadcrumbs and rendered suet. You eat what the day gives, he says with a shrug. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's a lesson. You nod, and then he adds, tonight though, tonight's a good one. And somehow, that small statement feels like a benediction. You thank him and keep walking, the sound of the market still thick behind you. But you're not following your nose anymore. Now it's your feet. They lead you past vendors still shouting, still cooking, still dreaming up new combinations of fat and flour, fruit and spice. They lead you toward a narrow passage that threads between two shuttered homes. And there, at the very end, you find a single woman sitting beside a fire. No cat, no stove, just her in a pan. She's turning something slow over the flame. When you approach, she looks up but doesn't speak. You crouch down to see. It's fruit. Apples split and baked directly on the coals, the skin blackened and blistered, the insides molten. She pulls one from the ashes and offers it to you with a flat stick. You blow on it, peel the skin carefully, and taste. It's soft, smoky, sweet, and sour. The most stripped-down thing you've had all night, and maybe the best. She watches you chew, nods once, then turns back to the fire. No performance, no peach, just the food. Sometimes that's enough. As you rise from beside the coal-baked apples, the sounds of the central market begin to fade behind you. No less present, but less urgent now. Your steps slow, digestion catching up with curiosity. The lane opens slightly, revealing an area you hadn't noticed before. It isn't part of the main market. Rather, it's a patch of cobbled square where people drift in small clusters, talking, laughing, sipping from shared jugs. The energy here is different. Less hurried, more languid. Fires are smaller, stalls are fewer. But here, the drinks flow. The first jug past your way smells of something dark and malty, yeasty, warm, like bread left too long in the sun. The man offering it is red-faced and grinning. Ale, he says, but don't ask how strong. You accept, sip cautiously. It's cloudy and thick, with a surprising bite at the end. The grains hit your tongue before the alcohol does. And there's an almost sour back note, like it's trying to be vinegar but got distracted by hops along the way. In medieval cities, ale was everywhere. It wasn't just a drink, it was water's safer, tastier replacement. Even children drank it, though theirs was weaker. It was brewed fast, sold young, and flavored with everything from sage to toasted oats. In poorer neighborhoods, Brews varied wildly from household to household. It was common to share jugs, pass them hand to hand in quiet corners like this one, places where gossip and warmth flowed as freely as the drink itself. Another jug makes the rounds. This one's sweeter, thinner, tinged with honey. You sip and taste wildflowers and fermentation. Mead, someone says, from being man's daughter. It's more delicate than the ale, almost too sweet, but it leaves your chest warm. You realize your stomach has stopped complaining. Now it just sighs. The drinkers here are older cobblers, laborers, tradesmen. A few are nearly asleep against barrels and bundles. A couple lean into one another mid-argument, debating loudly about whether eel pie should include raisins. No, one bellows. It's a pie, not a pudding. His friend slaps the barrel and insists it should be both. You can't help but laugh. You're offered a third drink, clear, sharp-smelling. Brandy? Some kind of herbal infusion? You pass politely. Your head is already swimming, not from drunkenness, but from fullness, of flavor, of firelight, of voices. Even your hands are warm, despite the night chill. You realize how long it's been since you noticed the cold. Nearby, a woman plays a lute softly, her tune weaving through the noise. You watch as a small group settles around her with bowls of something steaming. You wander over. It's a soup of sorts, thin, oily broth with shreds of something floating in it. The vendor gestures. Boiled bones, garlic, pepper, night broth. You ask what the shreds are. Bread ends, yesterday's cheese, a bit of onion. You accept a bowl. The first sip is sharp, restorative. The garlic wakes you. The fat smooths your throat, and the pepper buzzes on your lips. It's the kind of broth that resets the soul. It tastes like honesty. One man slurps as loudly, eyes closed. Better than a priest's sermon, he murmurs. Another chuckles. Heard it cures heartbreak. A third adds, also hangovers. You smile. Every bowl here comes with stories. This kind of soup was common in poorer medieval homes, stretching scraps into sustenance. But on nights like this, in places like this, it becomes a ritual, a conclusion, a way to signal that the indulgence is ending, that it's time to slow down. You cradle the bowl in your hands as the lute music drifts through the firelight. The singer hums now, no words, just melody. Your belly is full. Your legs ache slightly from standing, from walking, from exploring. But the ache is pleasant, like the aftermath of a long swim. A body reminded it exists. After the broth, someone passes a small cloth bundle. Inside, roasted chestnuts. You peel one and let the steam rise. Soft, sweet, a little earthy. The perfect punctuation. You don't need them, but they feel like a thank you. A final note from the night, gentle and warm. You ask one of the older men when the market closes. He shrugs. It doesn't, not really, just gets quieter. The good food runs out. The songs get slower. That's how you know. You like that. No sudden ending, just a soft tapering, like a candle burning low. You realize now that food in the Middle Ages wasn't just sustenance or celebration. It was ritual. It was resistance. It was identity. Everyone here, the vendors, the eaters, the drinkers, they've all claimed something for themselves. A moment, a flavor, a memory. No royal kitchen could serve a feast like this. Not because of money or ingredients, but because of what's here. Firelight, laughter, experimentation, risk. Enjoy. You glance around at the glowing faces, the stained fingers, the bread-crusted lips. You see people leaning on barrels curled up beside crates, nodding off with skewers still in hand. No one's rushing to leave. No one's worried about tomorrow. Not yet. You lean back, your own bowl empty now, and close your eyes just briefly. The fire cracks. The lute sighs. The broth still hums in your chest. You could sleep here, easily, and maybe you will, just for a moment. A soft clang jolts you back to your feet. Someone's dropped a pan, somewhere behind the soup fire. A few heads turn, but no one seems alarmed. It's not a startling sound, just a reminder that the market lives on, even when you forget you're in it. You stretch, brush crumbs from your tunic, and wander toward a small commotion ahead. Children, laughing, arguing, trading. You spot them just beyond the fire circle, huddled under a canopy of crooked cloth and tied together fishing nets. The first thing you notice are the colors, bright shards of violet, green, and amber scattered across a low table. The second thing is the scent, sugar, strong and slightly burnt. A girl no older than 10 guards the stash with the intensity of a dragon over her hoard. She narrows her eyes at you, then says, 2 coins per handful. No licking before you buy. The others giggle. You crouch beside the table. The candy is chaotic, rough chunks of hardened sugar and syrup, some embedded with nuts, others dyed with herbs or beetroot. You pick up a shard of violet. It smells faintly floral, like lavender and smoke. You slip her 2 small coins, and she lets you take a palmful. It crunches like glass between your teeth, sweet first, then smoky. Someone definitely overcooked the batch, but that's half the charm. In this makeshift sugar stall, the children are both merchants and chemists, artists and criminals. Every shard is different. Every flavor is surprise. One bite tastes like burnt mint, another like clove-stung honey, another disturbingly like soot. You ask what that one was. Oh, says the smallest boy, that's ash candy. Grandfather's recipe. Good for coughs. Maybe. Candied herbs were often used medicinally in medieval households, sweetened to make bitter healing ingredients more palatable. Fennel, anise, horehound. Even rosemary were dipped in syrup and left to dry. But here, they're being reinvented, distilled into chaotic pleasure by sticky-fingered apprentices of the night. You stay longer than you mean to. One girl offers you a toothpick with a hard, yellow ball stuck to the end. Ginger chew, she declares. You pop it in. Your eyes immediately water. It's like being punched by a root. You gasp, laugh, and she howls with delight. We dare people, she says. Some cry. It's endearing and a little terrifying. But it reminds you of something. Medieval food wasn't just for adults. Children shaped these street tastes, too. They had their own cravings, their own economies, their own secret snacks. Honeyed rose hips, roasted apples, molasses poured over snow when there was snow. In a world with little luxury, a spoonful of sweetness was currency. You thank them, wipe your hands on your cloak, and return to the wider path. As you do, a soft buzzing fills the air, not a sound, but a feeling, the hum of late-night momentum. Fewer people now, but those still awake seem lighter, looser. Some lie on blankets, chewing lazily. Others hum tunes with no clear melody. You spot a man half asleep, holding a half-eaten fig cake like it might disappear if he lets go. And then you see them, two older women crouched beside a kettle. They've made a drink. You don't know what it is, but it's steaming, and they're sipping from bowls carved out of horn. You approach, nod politely. One gestures to a bowl. Want to sleep good? She asks. You nod. She ladles the drink and hands it to you with both hands. It's golden, thin, dotted with specks of nut and spice. You sip. It's warm, gentle, earthy, milk steeped with cardamom, almond, and something bitter. You pause. Chamomile. She nods. And crushed fennel. Calms the chest. Helps dreams grow. In medieval kitchens, bedtime drinks were often as common as morning ones. Not everyone had the luxury, but when they did, they steeped herbs for calm. Valerian, lavender, rose, fennel, poppy. Some were truly medicinal. Others were just tradition. This one feels like both. As it slides down your throat, your breathing slows. The tightness in your back loosens. One of the women begins humming. Not a song exactly. A sound like rocking in a boat. Her friend taps a ladle gently against the pot. Rhythmic, soft. You sit down. You don't ask permission. You just do. Because here, that's how things work. Everyone shares. Everyone eats. It washes over you like steam. A small boy approaches, holding a string of dried fruit. He offers it to the women, and they accept it like an offering. One breaks a piece off and hands it to you. Fig. Chewy and dense. Sweetened with clove and dusted in ash. The texture is strange. Soft skin, gritty seeds, the ghost of smoke. But it feels ancient, like something monks might have eaten centuries ago. Seated in silence, bowls of wine nearby. Dried fruit was a staple in traveling snacks. Raisins, figs, apples, dates, easily packed, easily shared. And here they are again, strung together on thread like edible rosaries. A wind picks up slightly. One of the candles gutters out, but no one moves. The heat of the drink still lingers in your chest. The fig sticks in your molars. The women keep humming. The boy curls up nearby. And just like that, the noise of the wider market seems far away. You've entered the night's second layer, the softer part, the slower part. Here, food is lullaby, steam is story, and your body, at last, feels ready to rest. But still in the air, something cooks. The path narrows again, guiding you between two rows of stacked crates and baskets half covered in cloth. You pause at one. Inside, heads of garlic tangled with dried mint stems. The scent is sharp, oddly comforting. Just past it, a flickering orange light spills from beneath a canvas canopy. You draw closer. The stall beneath is quieter than most. No shouting, no sales pitch. Only the rhythmic clatter of a wooden spatula against the skillet. A woman stands alone at the fire, stirring batter into thin cakes on a griddle flat as a mirror. You smell nutmeg. Maybe rosemary. Or is it thyme? Her hands move with practiced ease, scooping batter, flipping cakes, brushing them with what looks like melted butter or clarified lard. She doesn't look up as you approach, but says, softly, "These ones are for stories." You tilt your head. Stories. She nods. Tell me one, you get cake. Make me laugh. You get two. You think for a moment, dredging up a tale from earlier in the evening. Perhaps the boy who dared you with ginger candy, or the drunk who tried to bribe a cat with turkey leg scraps. You tell her about the fig vendor who claimed to be a direct descendant of Julius Caesar. Figus Maximus, he called himself. She lets out a quiet laugh and hands you a small plate with two cakes, brushed with honey and dotted with lavender. The smell is warm and floral. You take a bite. It's soft inside, crisp at the edges. The batter's been aged, fermented slightly, giving it a tang that balances the sweetness. Lavender dances in the aftertaste. It feels like eating a memory, eaten standing, often with fingers. Every region had its own name for them. Pancakes, girdle cakes, flatbread fritters. Whatever they were called, they were fleeting. Made for the moment. You finish the first, save the second in a square of cloth she offers. For later, she says. When the dreams get dry. You thank her and move on, rounding the last bend of the market. The night is deeper now. The stars are clearer, their pale lights stretching between rooftops like frost on slate. The crowd has thinned to stragglers and sleepers. A few fires remain, glowing low. You pass a trio of vendors, quietly packing their things. One folds a cloth stained with molasses. Another scrapes caramel from tray with a knife, licking the blade absent-mindedly. No one seems in a rush. The market is retreating into itself. You stop at one last stall, not for food but for sound. A man sits beneath a makeshift awning, plucking a bowed instrument with a haunting, hollow resonance. Before him, in lieu of food, lie small bowls filled with vinegar, brine, and what looks like thin slices of root vegetables. Pickles. He sees you, gestures silently, and offers a bowl. Inside, slivers of beet, radish, turnip. You taste the beet first, sour, cold, with a snap like biting in a frost. Then the radish, hot, peppery, softened just slightly. The vinegar bites at your tongue, wakes something up inside you. Pickling was a necessity in a world without refrigeration, but also an art. Poor homes pickled everything. Cabbage, onions, even green walnuts. Some recipes called for honey brine, others for salt so strong it burnt. These pickles are balanced. Someone here knew what they were doing. You glance at the musician. He keeps playing, eyes closed. No words exchanged, just brine and music. It's enough. You sit on the edge of a cart and chew slowly, listening. The world is quiet now. It's powdery. You bite it. It dissolves immediately, sweet and chalky, with a strange metallic tang. Almond milk wafers, she whispers. For Lent. Noix. No deity. Just ground nuts and air. You nod. You've heard of these. Used when meat and dairy were forbidden. Somehow still luxurious, because almond milk wasn't cheap. Not even then. Some say almond milk wafers were for the pious. Others say they were for the clever, those who wanted to fast but sweetly. Tonight, they're for you. You chew slowly, the sugar coating your tongue, then lifting like mist. She vanishes before you can ask for more. You stand again, stretch. Your limbs are slow, your breath deep. There's not much left now, just the last few fires. A bucket of old broth cooling beside a shuttered cart. A single lantern still lit above the sugar shard table, now empty but glowing. And still, in your pocket, a lavender cake. You pull out. It's softened, slightly bent. You eat it in 2 bites. Then, quietly, you turn toward the road. The cobblestones are cooler now beneath your boots, and the shadows stretch longer as you leave the last tight alleys behind. What's left of the market is fading like candlelight in fog. Just a few murmurs, a few stubborn fires glowing red in their ash beds. You're not the only one lingering. A man leans against a shuttered stall, slowly chewing a heel of bread. A girl reclines beside a crate of spoiling apples, tossing peels into a brazier for the smell. You pass them quietly, each of you wrapped in the spell of digestion and night. Ahead, a larger space opens, a small square between buildings where the air feels fresher and the ground is littered with scraps. Fray twine, plum pits, crumbs, sticky paper stuck to shoes. It's here you find the final vendors. Just a handful, the last to close. Their food isn't glamorous. What they sell isn't fresh. Not exactly, but it's familiar, reassuring. The kind of food you eat not because you're hungry, but because it feels like an ending. You stop at a woman tending a pan of mush, oats milk, something vaguely sweet. She glances at you, then lifts a ladle without asking. You nod. She pours it into a shallow bowl and dusts it with crushed cinnamon bark. You take a seat on a barrel beside the fire and eat slowly. It's porridge, just porridge, but it hits differently here. Soft, simple, warm. The kind of thing you eat at the end of a sickness, or at the end of a festival. A bowl full of silence. Medieval cookbooks barely mention dishes like this. Too plain, too peasant, but they were there, always there. In every town, every hearth, every belly before bed. Cheap grains, water or milk, a touch of honey or dried fruit, if the week had been kind. But at this hour, it's sacred. It's the last comfort before the world closes its eyes. You finish the bowl and hand it back. She nods, silent. Her hands move to ladle the next. She will be here until the pot runs dry. Across the square, a man pokes at a tray of roasted onions. That's it, just onions. Blackened skins curling like paper. He peels one and hands it to a boy, who bites in, hissing from the heat. The man spots you. Want one? You nod, surprised by your own answer. He cracks one open and sprinkles it with salt. The inside is soft and steaming, nearly liquefied. You scoop it out with your fingers and it melts on your tongue. Sweet, smoky, pungent. It tastes like earth warmed by fire. A forgotten luxury hiding in plain sight. Root vegetables like this were food of the earth in every sense. Grown by hand, pulled from the mud. Washed, maybe, roasted in coals, or boiled in pots too heavy to lift without burning yourself. They were never noble, but they endured. And here, tonight, they offer a kind of elemental honesty. No misteri, no surprise. Just onion. You wipe your hands on your cloak. It's crusted now. Honey, flour, ash oil. You no longer notice. Everyone's cloaks look like this now. You drift toward a low cart with just 2 items left. One small pie and a cloth pouch tied with twine. The vendor, an older man with soot on his cheeks, waves at the pie. Apple and bacon. He says, last one. Didn't sell well. People are cowards. You laugh, intrigued. He shrugs. It's good, savory and sweet. From the coast. They make pies from everything there. You trade him a coin, and he wraps it carefully before handing it over. The crust is thick, rustic. Inside, the apple has turned dark and jammy, while the bacon adds bursts of smoke and salt. He's right. It is good. Confusing, but good. Savory sweet combinations were surprisingly common in medieval cuisine. Meat and fruit weren't opposites. They were companions. Spices, too. Sugar wasn't yet locked into the dessert category. Everything was flexible. A pie like this wasn't weird. It was normal, especially in coastal towns where trade and experimentation blended tradition into new textures. You ask about the cloth pouch. He unties it and shows you sugared fennel seeds. Tiny, white, hard like hailstones. For breath, he says. And for those who kiss someone they shouldn't have. He winks. You laugh again, then by the pouch. Not because you need it, but because it's a keepsake. A souvenir of the strange, delicious night you've wandered through. You drop it in your pocket beside the crumpled lavender cake wrapper and a stained strip of fried dough paper. You walk again, slowly now. You feel in your knees, your spine. The night is winding down. Even the fires agree. Burning low, embers cooling into memory. The sounds are fewer. One baby crying. One cartwheel creaking. A distant whistle. And beneath it all, the scent of the markets remains. Vinegar in the dirt, flour in the air, and the faint caramel ghost of roasted pears. You pass one final scene. 2 apprentices sitting cross-legged in front of a tipped-over stew pot. They're scraping the burnt layer from the bottom with crusts of bread. Best part, one says mouth full. All the flavor lives down here. You believe him. It smells incredible. Burnt garlic, onion, bits of cheese. The stew is long gone, but its ghost lingers, clinging to the iron in one last defiant crust. They offer you a bit of scorched bread. You chew slowly. They're right. It is the best part. You sit with them for a moment longer. No words. Just chewing, breathing, letting it end. And then, gently you stand. Your legs ache. Your fingers are stiff, but you're full. And not just in your stomach. Your senses are saturated. Your mind layered in textures. Syrup, soot, pepper, sleep. You turn down the quietest road. And for the first time all night, you realize you are ready for bed. The road out of the market winds like a cooling stream. Quiet, slow, lit only by the smolder of distant coals and the fading glimmer of oily lanterns. You pass a shuttered bakery where the scent of yeast and ash still clings to the walls. And for a moment, you think you hear dough rising, breathing in the darkness. It's past midnight now. The night has worn thin, but something still tugs at you. An invisible thread, some final flavor left to find. You follow a narrow lane bordered by carts half covered in damp wool. Most are empty, abandoned until dawn. One still simmers, a low, shallow pot sitting in a clay cradle. An old man stirs it with one hand, the other cradling a cup. Sweet mush, he says when he sees you. Don't look like much, but it's gentle. You nod, sit on a bench worn to a shine by countless behinds, and accept the bowl he offers. The contents are soft and beige, with bits of stewed apple, something like barley. The taste is muted, barely sweet, vaguely fruity, calming. It slides across your tongue like warm silence. Breakfast for those without time. The man mutters, dinner for those without teeth. You smile at that. There's comfort in food that doesn't shout, that simply is. He tells you this recipe came from his grandmother, who called it sky pudding because it was easy to eat while staring at nothing. You don't need to chew it. Just let it remind you what full feels like. You ask him if he sells much. He shakes his head. Only near the end. Only to the ones who've tried everything else. You nod. That sounds about right. When you're done, he pours you a sip of warm ale, flavored with rosemary. Thick and slightly sour. You drink it slowly, and it settles into your belly like an exhale. As you rise, he waves you off with a soft, "Be gentle now." You don't reply. You just smile. The street is nearly empty. Ahead, you You see the shape of the gallows scaffold in the square, a stark reminder of other parts of town, of justice and fear. But here, tonight, in the food-lit alleys behind it, there's only warmth. You pass the scaffold with quiet steps, and no one speaks of it. That, too, is part of the town's rhythm. Some structures are for daytime. Some memories are not for chewing. You drift past a fence where drying herbs hang in tufts. Sage, rosemary, mint, all stiff and fragrant. They rustle gently in the night breeze. A nearby window flickers with candlelight. Someone is still awake, still stirring, still dreaming. You feel like you're in a half-dream yourself. One filled with sweet onions, burnt sugar, and sticky fingers. A soft clink draws your gaze. Across the lane, a woman's sorting glass jars. She sees you and holds one up. Inside, slices of lemon suspended in honey. The light catching the syrup like amber. For sore throats, she offers. Or for sad hearts. You don't resist. You trade her a scrap of cloth you've been using as a napkin. She nods. The exchange is fair. Barter still lives here. You dip a finger into the jar. The syrup coats your tongue. Bright, tart, then thick and golden. Your lips tingle. Distilled into something that fits in a palm. She tells you her mother used to stir this in a tea made from dried violets. Made you feel like you'd been forgiven, she says. You don't know for what, but you understand. Further down the street, someone's left a bowl of stewed beans on a doorstep, still warm. A gift? A leftover? A habit? You don't take it, but you admire it. In medieval towns, food passed through hands like whispers, shared in silence, left in corners, pressed into palms without asking. Not because anyone had plenty, but because plenty was too fragile to hoard. You reach the edge of town, where the last stall waits like a punctuation mark. No cut, no vender, just a folded cloth on a barrel, holding 5 small wafers. Unmarked, unsweetened, plain. A note beside them reads simply, for the road. You take one. It's bland, just flour and water, barely a hint of salt. But it's dry, clean, and fills the mouth like a comma. A pause. Not a celebration, not a finale, but something you chew when the music stops. You tuck the rest into your sleeve. The road out of the square is dusted with flour tracks and fig seeds. You follow it, past sleeping dogs, shuttered windows, and carts that will soon be repacked, relit, restocked. The market sleeps lightly, like a cat in the sun. It'll wake again. It always does. Though, you feel the weight of the night now. The honey on your lips, the ginger in your teeth, the pie settling into your ribs like a slow lullaby. You're not just tired, you're steeped, saturated with everything you've seen and tasted. You reach the crooked bridge at the edge of town, where the night air carries the smell of hay and distant water. You stop, rest your elbows on the railing. Look up. The stars are the same ones that hung above the first spit-roasted pig, the first honeyed almond, the first eel pie sold by torchlight. And you're full of them now, a whole constellation of flavors. You smile to yourself. Somewhere behind you, an onion crackles in a forgotten fire. A pancake flips in a dream, and in your pocket, a single sugared fennel seed waits for the next time your breath falters. The bridge creaks gently beneath your feet as you move across it, the planks worn smooth by generations of footsteps. Pilgrims, traders, lovers, beggars, all crossing the night. Below, the dark water rolls quietly, catching stray glimmers from the stars. You pause again at the center of the span, leaning on a wooden railing, and let the breeze off the river carry away the last of the market's perfume from your cloak. Vinegar, onion, scorched sugar, the ghosts of bread crusts and melted cheese. But even here, just outside the noise, the food finds you. Across the bridge, a narrow stone building huddles in the shadows. Its chimney still smokes faintly. A door stands open, candlelight flickering against the inner walls, and on the stoop, unattended, sits a wooden tray. On are 3 steaming mugs and a small pile of baked grounds. Curiosity, or fate, pulls you closer. The bread is crisp and golden, thumbprint-sized, with flakes of salt still glistening on top. The scent is unmistakable. Caraway, maybe coriander. You hesitate, then take one. It cracks beneath your teeth, releasing a burst of warmth and flavor far richer than its humble appearance suggests. A soft voice from inside the building calls, "Take a mug. You're already part of the night." So you do. The drink is thin but comforting, herbal, nutty, with a trace of mint and barley. A tisane, maybe, or a light beer boiled to remove its teeth. "Keeps the sleep clean," says the voice, and you nod, though you're not quite sure what that means. Inside, the speaker, a middle-aged man in a linen nightshirt, smiles sleepily. "We leave the tray out every night," he explains. "For wanderers, or dreams disguised as people. Not sure which anymore." You thank him, and he waves it off. "Just leave something behind if you've got it." You dig through your pockets and leave behind the last sugar shard from the children's stall, still half wrapped in threadbare linen. As you walk on, The soft bite of caraway still lingers on your tongue. You consider how many bites this night has offered. Some bold, some absurd, others quiet and sacred like this one. It's not just a feast. You realize it's a map, one you've walked with your whole body. A little further, past the last cottages and into the open path toward the fields, you find a gathering of sleepers, mounds of cloth and wool and curled limbs. Farmers, maybe, or travelers too tired to seek a bed. They sleep openly, under a shed roof, near an abandoned wagon. But there's still fire, and beside the fire, nestled in its coals, is a blackened skillet. You sit near it and listen. The crackle is steady, soothing. Eventually, an old woman stirs from her seat beside the wheel and notices you. Still hungry, she rasps. You hesitate. She smirks. Not for food, for the last taste. She lifts the lid of the skillet. Inside, something unassuming. Boiled grain porridge, brown at the edges. A slice of pear, caramelized to near ash. A splash of something dark. Wine? Berry? She hands you a flat wooden spoon. Cook's privilege, she says. Even if you didn't cook. You eat slowly. The porridge is nutty, a little bitter, a little sweet. The fruit breaks apart on your tongue like warm paper. There's no garnish. No trick. Just patience. Fire, grain, and time. These late-night porridges were staples for laborers and innkeepers. Meals that didn't require attention. Just embers and a heavy pot. Sometimes they doubled as breakfast. Sometimes they were what remained after every other dish had vanished. But here, at this hour, it feels ceremonial. The woman hums a low tune as she stirs the rest. You ask her what it is. A turning song, she says. You sing while you stir. Otherwise it burns. You believe her. The food tonight has demanded many things. Laughter, patience, silence, spice. Why not song? When you finish, she points toward the open road. That's it, she says. No more kitchens till sunrise. Best you walk it off. You nod, your legs heavy, your body caught in the slow sway of digestion and night. The road stretches ahead, pale in the moonlight. No more stalls, no more pies, just space, cool air, and the warmth still nesting in your ribs. You walk, and as you walk, you remember. Not just the dishes, but the faces, the soot on the fritter vendor's cheeks, the sugar girl's grin, the boy daring you to cry from ginger, the old man with the scorched stew pot, the woman stirring her sky pudding. Each one gave you something more than food. Each one handed you a thread that wove into this strange, sleepy tapestry. The flavors still line your mouth like echoes. Honey and vinegar, burnt cheese, poppy seed and rose. You trace them like memories, filing them away behind your teeth. The night isn't over, but the feast is. Now it's time to walk through the aftertaste. The road opens gently, no longer pressed by leaning walls or crowded stalls, but flanked by tall hedges and sleeping fields. The silence hums around you, quiet but not empty. Somewhere distant, a dog barks once, a windmill creaks, and in the hedgerows, crickets pick up their slow rhythm, like tiny cooks rattling spoons in tin pots. The stars stretch overhead, bright and calm. You exhale, and your breath rises like steam, slow and invisible. You're not walking to anywhere in particular. Not now. This part of the night isn't about destination. It's digestion, reflection, a slow chew of the spirit. You realize, somewhere in your chest, that you feel good. Not just full, but warm. Whole, like something inside you has been both fed and quieted. You rub your fingers together, and they still carry the ghost of the night. Sticky, rough, the grit of sugar and soot and salt. You could wash them, but part of you likes the evidence. The souvenirs that don't fit in pockets. You pass an abandoned bench under a tree and sit without thinking, letting your feet dangle. Watching moonlight spill across the dirt path like flour dusted from a baker's apron. Then from the shadows, another scent reaches you, subtle, toasty, faintly herbal. It drifts from a patch of earth just beyond the bench, where a man crouches low with a flat stone over coals. You didn't see him until now, but he's there, smiling faintly, flipping something thin and soft on the stone. You approach out of instinct, like a moth to fire. Chap cakes, he murmurs. Flatbread, road food. He points to a small pile wrapped in cloth. One for the walk, one for the pocket, one for someone else. You crouch beside him. He hands you one straight from the stone, still steaming, barely browned. Brushed with a whisper of oil and a dash of salt. You fold it and bite. It's soft, warm, just chewy enough to remind you that you're still here. There's a hint of rosemary and maybe fennel. Flavors in the air, he says. Stone picks it up. Flatbreads like this were the backbone of medieval food. Sold everywhere, eaten by everyone. Sometimes plain, sometimes wrapped around meat. Sometimes stuffed with mashed beans or melted cheese. Portable, affordable, humble. You chew slowly. It tastes like the road itself. You ask him why he's still out here. He shrugs. I beg for walkers. For those who left late, or stayed too long, or forgot why they came. You nod. You understand. Everyone who wandered that market tonight came looking for something, some memory, some comfort, some bite of the world they didn't know they missed. You finish the bread, and he offers you another. You take it, folding it carefully into a square of cloth. Don't forget it, he says. It's not for you. It's for later. You rise and walk on. The fields stretch wide now, open under starlight, bordered by crumbling walls and scattered stones. The land smells of earth and frost, faint manure and last season's hay. But still, beneath it, the food of the night lingers, smoke, nutmeg, burnt sugar tucked into your breath. In the distance, a small fire flickers by a circle of stones. A single figure sits beside it, boiling something in a cracked kettle. As you approach, she doesn't move. She's younger than you expect, barely older than a child, but her eyes are old, quiet. She ladles liquid into a cup and offers it. No words. You sit, take its sip. It's broth, thin but rich. Mushroom, onion, garlic, and something deeper, woodsy almost like bark. Birch, she says softly, as if reading your thoughts. Boiled for hours. What's left is clean. You sip again. It tastes like wet forest, like the inside of a tree. Not sweet, not savory, just real. You ask why she makes broth alone at night. To remember, she says. To make the morning quieter. That makes sense. Everything you've eaten tonight has been about memory. Some new, some ancient, all of it layered like a medieval pie. Sweet and savory, strange and familiar, hot and cold at once. You hand back the cup and she nods in thanks. You rise again and keep walking. The road is thinner now, the edge is less clear. You don't mind. You're no longer following streets or smells. Just the pull of the night. You find a small wooden sign, half buried in bramble. Carved into it, barely legible, are the words, Sop Lane. You grin. Of course. A sop, bread soaked in broth or milk, was one of the most humble and beloved dishes of the Middle Ages. Simple, filling, easy to digest. You wonder how many people have wandered this same path with sop in their stomach, walking home, full and tired, crumbs in their cloak. You take the flatbread from your pocket and chew half of it slowly. You feel the warmth return to your fingertips. It's still soft. You pass a low wall, then a crooked fence, and finally, the soft glow of a lamp burning in a cottage window. Someone's awake. Baking? Brewing? You wonder, but you don't stop. You've tasted enough for one night. More than enough. Now, each step is its own course. You glance up one last time. The stars are fading slightly, the first hints of pre-dawn haze softening the sky's black edge. You breathe deep, and the air has changed. Cooler, cleaner. The market's perfume has burned off at last, and with it, the feast begins to settle, sinking deeper from belly to memory. The sky has thinned to a soft gray veil, and the stars are finally loosening their grip. But the night still clings to your boots, your breath, the back of your tongue. It isn't finished with you yet. You rise from the mossy bench slowly, like bread lifting from a warm stone. The bundle in your pocket shifts with you, its weight subtle, but full of meaning. There's still one last path to walk, one last flavor to meet. You follow a trail carved more by repetition than design. It winds past sleeping trees and forgotten fences, between hedgerows that breathe frost into your fingertips. The cold now is gentler, not sharp like midnight, but quiet, curling around your sleeves like steam from a cooling pot. The sound of your own footsteps fills the silence, and the earth beneath is soft, the way flour feels after it's been sifted. Soon, the path opens onto a hill that overlooks the town from a side rarely seen. Its thatched rooftops curled in on themselves, faint curls of smoke rising here and there like final sighs. Beyond it, the market is invisible, but you can still sense it, not in sound, but in sensation. A memory embedded in your blood sugar, a warmth tucked behind your molars, and maybe, just maybe, a trace of ginger still pricking your gums. At the base of the hill, you spot a structure, small, circular, made of clay and timber. Smoke trickles lazily from a crooked chimney, and near the door, an elderly woman tends a shallow fire pit ringed with stones. She doesn't speak when she sees you. She only gestures to the stool beside her and flips something flat and golden on a wide, hot stone. The smell is unmistakable. Flour, butter, something sharper. Lemon? Thyme? You sit, and she passes you the thing she's cooking. It's a wafer, thin as a leaf, warm as skin. You hold it carefully and bite. The edges snap. The center melts. The flavor is bright, surprising. Tangy from preserved peel, mellowed by flour that's been toasted just enough to taste like dusk. For endings, she says at last, not beginnings. Her voice is soft, greedy. Too many people eat like they'll never be full. You nod, chewing thoughtfully. She hands you a second wafer. This one darker, with a brush of vinegar syrup on the surface. The contrast jolts your tongue to attention. Sweet sour, astringent, almost medicinal. Not meant for comfort, meant for cleansing. This one clears the sleep, she murmurs. Helps you remember what wasn't eaten. You think about that. How every bite you took tonight replaced something else. Some dish unchosen. Some flavor untried. She's right. There are always leftovers, even in dreams. You sip from a clay cup she offers next. Some kind of root brew, warm and earthy, with notes of chicory and ash. It's bitter, but not unkind. Drink, she says. This part's for waking. And indeed, your limbs feel heavier now, not from fatigue but finality. As if your body knows the feast is over. Your senses no longer chase scent or taste. They now settle, pull inward. It is a sacred digestion. She motions toward a cloth-wrapped package resting near her hearth. For the road, she says. Last one. You take it, folding it carefully, not opening it. Not yet. The mystery is part of the flavor. You thank her, and she only nods, already turning her attention back to her fire. You leave quietly and continue along the path, which now begins to narrow again, swallowed by tall grass and scattered with smooth, round stones. Each step sinks slightly into the earth, as if you're walking not on ground, but on memory itself. The sky is brightening now, not gold, not yet, just gray-blue, with that first watery light that makes everything look ancient. You begin to see outlines of fields, some plowed, some sleeping under frost. A scarecrow leans against its pole like someone halfway through a long goodbye. In the distance, a flock of birds lifts lazily into the air, stirred by something unseen. And beneath it all, the silence deepens. Your fingers brush the cloth of the final package in your cloak. You consider opening it, but not here. Not yet. It's not time. Instead, you focus on the last traces of taste still trailing behind your teeth. The birch broth, the mint wafer, the sour glaze. They sit like punctuation at the end of a sentence. Firm, undeniable. Soon you come upon a crumbling wall, broken by centuries of wind and moss. On the other side, a grove of twisted trees holds the morning like a secret. You duck through a low arch in the wall and feel the ground shift beneath you. It's softer here, almost springy. The air tastes different, too, sharper, with a bite of nettle and lichen. No fallirs werden. Nobody aguats. This place is for something else. A flat stone rests at the center of the grove, and on it, carved into the surface, are two words. Here ends. You run your fingers along the grooves. Smooth from touch, faded by weather. A marker not of a grave, but of a passage. A culinary pilgrimage, maybe, or a dream once eaten. You sit beside the stone, take the package from your cloak, and slowly unwrap it. Inside is a small square of dark bread, dense, nut-studded, streaked with fruit and coarse salt. You bring it to your lips, then pause. It doesn't matter what it tastes like. It's not food anymore. It's a memory made edible. A final page, a full stop. You place it on the stone and rest your hand beside it. You close your eyes, and for the first time tonight, you feel not full, but finished. Somewhere between the hush of dawn and the last curl of night, you rise. Not fully awake, not entirely asleep. Your limbs still heavy, your thoughts soft. The stone bench beneath you holds the warmth of your rest, and beside you, the cloth bundle still waits, patient and silent. You stretch slowly, joints clicking like cooling pans, then stand and press the bundle gently to your chest before tucking it back into your pocket. The path forward looks unfamiliar, though it must have always been here. A narrow trail, flattened by feet you'll never meet, runs through a thin copse of trees where early light dapples and streaks. The hush here is different from the stillness of the market. It's cleaner, crisper, a pause that has nothing to do with sleep and everything to do with what comes after. The wind carries the faint scent of wood smoke and toasted grain, distant but persistent. You follow it as though being summoned, feet moving of their own accord. As you crest a shallow hill, the land flattens into a grassy hollow where a few figures move slowly around a low fire. They're preparing something, but it's not like the hurried chaos of the street vendors. Their gestures are slow, deliberate. This is no longer feasting. This is ritual. One woman stands over a round stone grill, pressing dough into flat discs. Another grates a root, horseradish, you think, into a pale paste. A man pours something thick and golden from a ceramic jug into small wooden bowls. You hover at the edge, unsure. Then one of them looks up and nods, and you step forward without speaking. They hand you a bowl and a thin slice of bread. The liquid is warm and slightly sour, fermented oat milk, maybe mixed with spice and crushed seeds. The bread is soft and spongy, with a faint char at the edges. You dip it, chew, and let the flavors unfold. It tastes ancient, like something that remembers. You eat slowly, seated on a flat stone, watching steam rise from the jug as more bowls are filled. No one speaks much here. They just eat, nod, breathe. Their silence isn't sleepy, it's sacred. This meal reminds you of none of the night's indulgences. It is neither sweet nor greasy. It doesn't curl or fizz or crunch. It is instead a farewell, a way to close the mouth softly, to clear the tongue, to mark that the night, this strange, gluttonous, joyful, mysterious night, is now behind you. You finish and return your bowl. One of the figures, the woman with the grated root, offers you a cloth square folded with something inside. You open it to reveal a pressed wafer, almost translucent, dusted with powdered mint. To carry the last taste, she whispers. You nod, then place it in your mouth. It vanishes almost immediately, cooling your throat, refreshing your breath. It is the final exhale, the end of the flavor. You feel your stomach shift, not in discomfort, but in signal. This is it. The food has settled. The hunger has passed. The night has fed all that it could. Now, it's time to let it go. You turn away from the fire circle and begin walking once more. The path widens as it heads downhill, bordered by low stone walls and the first pale, pink blush of morning. The ground crunches faintly beneath your feet, twigs, seeds, and a few last crumbs shaken loose from your pocket. As you descend, the air thickens with the smell of new fires being lit. Iron grates heating, kettles bubbling. The town is waking. A different kind of hunger is arriving. Cleaner, sharper, more focused. It will want bread and eggs and the fast pulse of daytime life. But you're not part of that yet. Not just yet. You pass a doorway where a baker kneels beside his oven, face flushed with heat. A girl walks by with a pail of milk. Somewhere, someone sings off-key. The world is reassembling itself. But your mind is still stretched across the night, spiced and sticky, glazed and sated. You round a final corner and see the crooked door of the cottage you've somehow been walking toward all along. It leans slightly, and the windows are shuttered. The garden is bare, but the soil smells of onion and nettle. This is your place, or maybe just the night's end. You step inside. It's cool and dark. A bed waits in the corner, and beside it, a small wooden shelf. You sit on the edge, remove the last flatbread bundle, and unwrap it. It is softened slightly, the oils now rich with time. You don't eat it. You place it gently on the shelf. A memory kept. You lie back. The air smells of wood, ash, flour, fennel. The smell of the night. The smell of everything. You close your eyes, and now at last you are full. The bed beneath you creaks softly as you shift, the wooden frame old, but welcoming, like it remembers the weight of 1,000 dreamers before you. Outside, the sky continues to pale, just a whisper of blue filtering through the shutters, enough to suggest that morning is real and not merely imagined. But here, in this cottage, the light doesn't matter. Here, time is thickened, softened, cooled like stew left overnight. Your body is still buzzing faintly, not with noise or energy, but with memory of roasted apples, of honey-thick broth, of syrup that cracked like glass, and laughter that came from children with sugarcane-stained fingers. The market is far behind now, tucked into the folds of your night self. You won't return to it tomorrow. It may not even exist tomorrow, but it's yours now, fully digested, fully real. Your hands still smell faintly of wood smoke and fennel. You curl one under your cheek, the other resting gently against your chest. You feel warm and light and gently sinking. Somewhere out there, someone is lighting the day's first oven. But in here, the stars still burn low behind your eyelids. The taste of bread, of broth, of cloves clings like lullaby. The candles have all gone out. The bowls are empty. And somewhere, far from memory, you drift,